Hello and welcome to Liminal Tarot for the week of March 12th through the 18th, 2023. It's amazing that March is going so fast. This week we have very interesting kinds of both earth, really kind of earth and fire energies. You can see, I know we recently just had a Virgo full moon, and Saturn has just moved into Pisces. And soon Pluto will be moving into Aquarius. So, but what we see here is we definitely see a Saturnian influence here. So Saturn is definitely a big part of this. But we also see very strong Virgo energies. And, there's just this very strong sense about laying foundations and starting new things. And also the idea that, we already do know things, and we do kind of need to rely on ourselves to in this in the new energy that's coming up now, and in a lot of the changes that undoubtedly many of us are experiencing. So first we've got the Golden Dawn Tarot. Okay, that's my my regular deck. We do have the Osho Zen Tarot. I have the Antarian Oracle, the Norse Runes, Wisdom of the Tao. We have Moonology. We have Dark Goddess Oracle, and then also the Avebury Oracle. So those are our cards for this week. So what do we have first over here with Tarot? We have the Hermit, we have Judgment, and we have the King of Wands. Okay, now the Hermit is your Virgo card. Okay, this is definitely strong Virgo energy. It's about organizing, it's about taking time to reflect, thinking about things. This may be a card of withdrawing and thinking about things carefully before one acts and moves ahead. But Hermit to me also has to do with wisdom, and from everything else I'm seeing in this reading, which we're going to get to, I feel like there's a sense of that one has already gained a kind of inner wisdom or maturity in moving ahead with things. And Judgment brings about this kind of rebirth. Okay, so this is about we're letting go of the past, we're making decisions about what stays and what goes. For some of you, Judgment could have to do with finalizing legal issues of some kind. Or on a more, perhaps you might call it spiritual level, the idea of settling certain karmas, or just letting go of past patterns and past things that allow us to really be reborn using the wisdom that we have. And then with the King of Wands is about, this is a passionate move into new projects. Again, with the King, we're talking about a certain level of maturity. We're talking about, this is not the newbie just experimenting. I mean, the King of Wands indicates that all the tools and all the resources are there. Sometimes the King of Wands can be a person. It can be a fire sign person usually, who might be able to inspire or help us along on that path. But if it doesn't represent a person, it can represent us and the ways in which we are ready to sort of dynamically move ahead with things. Now, if we look at our other tarot card, which is the Awareness card, which is the 7, and the 7 here would be like the Chariot, okay, in this particular deck. And this card indicates that, this is the first of multiple cards here that say that you already know what's happening. You can rely on your intuition. You don't have to struggle or plan too much. You just need to go along with what your inner voice is telling you. If you move along in that direction, whatever seems like it's moving very fast, or maybe moving in a direction that's uncertain, that's where your control is going to be, by listening to that inner instinct, that gut instinct, or that inner voice authority that tells us, that basically helps dissolve any lack of clarity that we've had in recent times. As you can see, there's this kind of person in shadow. And as things are dissolving and you're seeing the clear person underneath, this is definitely a sense that we are, moving away from things that are, we're moving into a phase where it's going to be much more certain where we're going, and we can feel a lot more confident about where we're going. But a lot of the decisions will be based, they'll be solidly grounded, but they'll also be based in our intuitive knowing. So don't discount that at this point. It's very, very important. On that same track of knowledge, we have the Pythia card here with the Dark Goddess Oracle. And the Pythia is also, again, about knowledge. It asks you not to look outside yourself for the answers, but rather to look within, because you already have a lot of the information that you already need. So, your intuition is something that you can rely on. And, sometimes this card shows up when there's some self-doubt, or when we're ready to invest our thought process, or we're ready to invest our opinions or ideas in the words of somebody else. It could be a teacher, or it could be just somebody who grabs us or strikes us, and we think, oh, this person has something to say. Well, maybe they do. I mean, I don't want to discount that, but it is. But when this card shows up, there's generally an idea that you might need to make sure you're questioning. You're not just accepting somebody at face value, especially if your intuition is telling you that there might be something not quite right. So this is definitely a card of relying on your inner knowledge. Now, new moon in Capricorn, again, we have this Saturn energy here. And this is for people who are thinking about a new job, or moving into, Capricorn is Saturn energy. So there's definitely this sense of, and then we think about being Saturn in Pisces right now. To me, this is a lot about, taking our dreams and making them manifest. But we have to have a plan. And, again, this sometimes foretells a new job or new profession. I've actually heard some other readers who have talked about that in this week. So that's rather interesting that's showing up. But even if that's not the case for you, this new moon in Capricorn is about, laying the foundation for your dreams. And again, like these other cards, there's a suggestion here that you have what it takes. Sometimes this has to do with getting more education or taking a class or something like that. And that card then in this way relates to this one, the Place Next Door from the Antarian Oracle. And the Place Next Door card is literally about that. It's about expanding our horizons, about learning a new skill, a new language, immersing ourselves in a new culture. It's about, getting outside of our comfort zone and what's normal for us in the way of, again, this is a card of travel. So there's this idea of, going somewhere and learning something new. And it doesn't have to mean physical travel. It can just mean, learning something right where you are. But nonetheless, there's this idea of expanding your knowledge about something or about a particular situation. So there's definitely the sense that, we have the resources, and, we our own inner voice can guide us into where it is that we need to go next. Now, if I go back over here to the Wisdom of the Tao, we have the Tiger card, which is confidence. And again, the message is very similar. It's the idea that we are at a point where our intuition and our, that gut feeling that we have, our clairaudience, our clairsentience, as it were, our ability to understand the world in a way that's not necessarily logos driven or logic driven. This is, we can trust ourselves. We can trust our instincts. We can have confidence in the way that we, in the things that are coming to us and that occur to us and feel right to us. It doesn't always have to be, we don't always have all the facts or all the information. And obviously, some things may be best to wait till final decisions until we have all the facts in place. But nonetheless, there's definitely this idea of you can be confident that you're moving in the right direction even when you don't have all the information. There's a tendency in our culture to discount intuitive knowing as somehow, like it's totally unreliable. And there may be some cases where you want to be careful about that, but generally speaking, in our lives, usually, oftentimes you'll find that the logical decision is not necessarily always the right one, because you're making the decision without, you're trying to make a decision without all of the information, and your intuition may be kind of filling in the gaps. Of course, one of the hard things that we have to deal with is what's the difference between intuition and, illusion or wishful thinking or things like that. But I think you'll find that a lot of times your intuition is right far more times than when you're being delusional. I think there will be something in you that will tell you if you are. So it's definitely this sense of being able to trust yourself. There's a desire here to expand your horizons. The Avebury Oracle has the Down to Earth card, though. So this is again reminding us, that Capricorn energy, that Earth energy. Time to be down to earth. Self-importance is no longer required. So, well, even if it's not so much about self-importance, obviously we're all important in our own way, but there's no need to put on airs or try to do something exceptional. In the Osho Zen deck, this would be represented by the ordinariness card. It's just like, you know what, just being you and doing the thing that you're doing is probably good enough. And just keep it simple and allow your inner voice to inform you about your next move. There's no need to do anything, melodramatic or excessive, or you don't have to be over the top. I mean, a lot of times this comes up when we feel we have to do something very perfectly, or we have to impress somebody in a certain way. And this is just saying, look, just be real about where you are. But also, again, because when you're operating from that base, then your inner voice, then you can actually hear it without all of the kind of delusion that we hear in the ether. And that may, again, I feel like this is very strongly the Saturn and Pisces kind of influence. And speaking of such things, we have as our rune for today, we have Nauthiz. And Nauthiz is the rune of limitation. And this, again, is a Saturn rune. So this has to do with, the fact that, we are probably going through a period of time where we're going to be tested, where we're going to run into certain obstacles at different times. But these obstacles are not there to make our lives difficult. They're not bad luck. They're there to teach us something. So again, this whole idea of schooling, part of it too could be that as we're running into roadblocks for things, it may be telling us to slow down, maybe telling us to consider things a little more carefully, or to, think a little more carefully about our plans. I mean, obviously we want to go along with our intuition, but sometimes that doesn't always mean jumping directly into action. We need to look at the places, or if we find that we jump and that we're hitting a wall somewhere, then we need to, stop and regroup a little bit, but without looking at it as something that is a negative. One of the things about Saturn is that usually in the first half of life, Saturn is a real pain. I mean, people are, we see Saturn as a negative, as a bringer of obstacles, as a bringer of tasks. When you're over a certain age, when you've passed middle age, okay, and some people will say 35, some will say 45, whatever it is. When you're older, Saturn has, because you're more experienced and because you can put things in context in a better way, it's much easier to deal with these limitations and to overcome them, towards the second half of life. So, but nonetheless, I mean, the lesson here is that, we are going to face certain limitations, but those limitations may be just trying to steer us in the right direction. In the same way that if you're going through a maze and you hit a wall, it's just kind of like, okay, you might have to regroup and find the pathway that's actually going to take you in the right direction. So overall this week, I would say that there's a lot here about, there's a lot about new beginnings, getting excited about new things, laying new plans, expanding your horizons by learning new things. But also, there's this need to find a way to take our dreams and and our intuitions, which we can rely on. They are true. I mean, we're not, we shouldn't look at something and say, well, I don't think this is going to happen because, I don't have this circumstance right now or that one. You can't always base everything on the information you have in the present. That said, if you're going to build a solid plan, make sure you do have your feet on the ground. You can have your feet on the ground and be listening to your intuition at the same time. In fact, I would suggest that that's the best way to do it. Sometimes we kind of, can fly off into the ether, and those of you who experience things like that, can attest to how that goes. But, that's not necessarily the tenor of right now. There's a way of, this balancing between, relying on what our gut instincts are telling us, and at the same time, going through things in kind of a methodical, kind of a, step-by-step way, and being able to take your time. There's not a whole lot here about rushing into the next thing. You're definitely at the beginning of new things, and there is a new beginning here, but there's no need to rush. The clarity that you need is coming. So that's it for this week. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next week.